Hi, it's Angela and welcome to my channel, Your Luminous Life. So creativity was literally my lifeline this summer. It's been a pretty rough season of life since about mid-April with my dad's increasing dementia and declining health. So in the past, when I've had ongoing stressful situations, I've done the usual, trying to take care of myself. Yes, I also do tend to binge on carbs, but I'm working on it. I never really considered creativity though, because it seemed pretty indulgent. Things that you do when life is calm and all your ducks are in a row. And I've actually found that that is not the case. Creativity can be tremendously beneficial even when your ducks are nowhere to be found. They do not have to be in a row. So I learned this because I had signed up for pottery classes before my father was hospitalized. And when I was visiting him in the hospital, I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to wrap up this class and then I'm going to quit so that I can focus on, managing stuff for my dad. So as I was sitting there in front of the clay during one of the classes and the hand, it's a really messy tactile craft, and so I'm manipulating the clay underneath my hands, and then I noticed that all the tension was just sort of leaving my shoulders. I felt this sense of calm and focus and relaxation, because my brain was not spinning with all of these decisions and worries and anxieties. My brain was focused on what I was doing, and I was yeah, I need to do this. I need to keep doing this. And so even though everything I made in the summer pretty much sucked, it weighed 5 tons, it's really heavy, and the glazing is just terrible, or it's misshapen, I didn't intentionally put a bulge in this cylinder, it just sort of happened, but it was still really, really fun, because it's not the outcome of your creative efforts that matters nearly as much as the process and the experience of making something. And here's why. First, and most obviously, it gives your brain something else to think about. A lot of creatives describe a state of flow where they get fully engaged and immersed in what they're creating, and the outside world and all of its issues just sort of falls away. That's especially true when you're learning something new, because you can't do anything in autopilot. Everything is a bit challenging, and it takes, your brain's attention and your hands' attention, and it ends up kind of functioning like a mini vacation for your brain. Even though we like to think we're all multitaskers, that's really not true. Our brain is doing one thing and then doing another, and maybe you can task switch really quickly, but when you're making something, you're not able to do that task switching, because there's this feedback loop between what your hands are doing and your brain, and they're just sort of talking to each other, and they're fully engrossed in what you're learning, what you're trying to create. Which brings me to my second point, which is the tactile joy of creative activities, of touching and handling the materials. I mean, most creative activities are tactile. Potters will talk about the feel of the clay beneath their hands, and knitters love to talk about the texture of the yarn and the calming rhythmic feel of the needles clacking against each other. It's really intrinsically pleasing on an almost primal level, which makes sense when you think that when we're born, one of the first ways we learn about the world is through our sense of touch. And this brings me to point number 3, because when your hands and your mind are working together, you usually create something. I mean, it's pretty wonderful to be able to say, well, that happened and that kind of sucked, but hey, look at this thing I made. I mean, I love my little wonky mug here. I mean, I didn't set out to make a little cappuccino mug, but this is as high as I was able to lift the clay, and it doesn't matter. Here's this thing that I can drink out of, and it's fun, it makes you happy, and it gives you a sense of accomplishment. And this brings me to point number 4, because my mug also reminds me that I'm more than the challenges I'm facing and the stress that I'm feeling. I mean, there's another part of me that's still playful and open and curious, and it's important to nurture all parts of myself. When I go visit my dad, to just not be feeling and showing the challenges and the stress, but to also have this other more energized and happier part of myself and bringing that part of myself into the room also. And finally, I think that exercising our creative skills and muscles actually helps us when we are trying to solve problems or find solutions, because as creatives there are dozens of decisions that we make every moment. Like for me as a potter, it might be, how much clay do I wedge, and how do I lift this wall as high as I want, and how do I shape this thing with the tools that I have, and what glaze am I going to use? And there's not, I mean, I could follow a recipe and make a pot, but that's not really what it's like when you're in the studio. It's sort of this experimentation. You're trying things out. What happens if I do this? And what happens if I do that? And you're learning and growing through all of that, and you have, delightful outcomes, and then you have not so great outcomes that you learn from. And when you embrace that uncertainty and that experimentation and that openness and curiosity when you're solving problems in your creative realm, without question, there's a spillover effect into other areas of your life. And that means that we can be a little more resourceful and creative when we are managing real life challenges. So that's my plug for embracing creativity in the middle of life's rough patches. So let me know your favorite creative activity in the comments below. And if you need some ideas, you can check the description below because I've got a list of them, or you could try my 30-day photography challenge and exercise your creativity that way. So thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next video.